everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show and happy Friday. Oh, so much to get to. The horrifying Diddy story is heating up and implicating many major celebrities in various ways. We're starting to get more and more details. And one of those people who was super cozy with the music mogul was Oprah Winfrey, who hosted the most nauseating campaign town hall for Vice President Kamala Harris last night that I've ever seen. It was filled with totally unrelatable Hollywood celebrities doing their best to act like Kamala Harris is the second coming. It's just some of the most ridiculous Kamala Harris ramblings of the entire campaign cycle took place last night. We're going to get into all of it. Here with me in studio for the full show, Maureen Callahan, columnist for The Daily Mail. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. Cyber attacks are on the rise, with corporate megastores falling victim to data breaches that could expose your private information. Now these same megastores are lobbying DC politicians to pass the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. According to our sponsor, Electronic Payments Coalition, this bill could leave you even more vulnerable to credit card cyber attacks, while megastores pocket billions in additional profits. Learn more at guardyourcard.com and then consider telling Congress to guard your card. The Electronic Payments Coalition says Americans lose when politicians choose. Again, that's guardyourcard.com. Maureen, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. Oh my God.
Thank God you're here today to talk about the Oprah thing.
Thank God I get to vent to one of the only people who I feel will completely understand my rage and frustration.
Yes, rage. That's how I felt too. Can I say this? I used to love Oprah, like most of us who grew up when we did. And only now did I realize I've been getting spoon-fed propaganda from this woman for years. I always took her little setup packages as gospel. You know, before I was a reporter, I never even thought to question whether Oprah might be intentionally misleading me. Then last night, the dawn came and I was like, oh my God, she is not a reporter. She's a propagandist. She's trying to shove messaging down my throat of whatever she believes, not what's real. So you remember she did that like kind of factual interview after the quote documentary of Michael Jackson?
Yes.
That was so dishonest.
Yes.
She did not raise any of those accusers' serious compromising facts when she had them right there. Maybe they're telling the truth, maybe they're not. But as a journalist, you have to at least ask. You know, you've got multiple lawsuits against his estate, sir. Might that be an incentive to lie? Didn't ask. You've got these accusations against him. You had a book that you were supposed to produce about Michael Jackson in the context of litigation where you were required to turn this stuff over, and you lied saying that you didn't have it. And you only got found out because Random House and these other publishers admitted you shopped it to them and turned over the metadata to Michael Jackson's estate. My point is simply, this one accuser was very compromised, and she had him right after the documentary. It aired on HBO right after. Didn't ask a question. Then she gets Meghan Markle. That was another propaganda fest where she didn't even try to pretend to be a journalist. And then we get the debacle last night.
Yes. So great point about the Michael Jackson thing, because Oprah is a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. Right? You would think anyone, especially a journalist coming from that background, would view him with a bit more of a jaundiced eye rather than be in the business of image rehabilitation for this guy.
No, but she wasn't. My point is coming from the other way. She had the accusers there, and the accusers may or may not have had this experience with Michael Jackson.
Oh, you're talking about the HBO doc? Yes.
But she failed to bring up prior inconsistencies in their stories that really did compromise their stories. I don't know what happened.
I understand what you're saying.
So I'm just saying, as a journalist, which she purports to be,
right,
it was a complete fail.
Right.
And then she committed the same failure with Meghan Markle,
yes,
where she didn't press any of her claims of racism in the royal family. And now we have the ultimate culmination of her journalistic fails, right? Where she has the potential next president of the United States. And not only does she not ask her hard questions, the whole thing was an attempted rehab and repackaging of her.
That town hall I thought was so suspicious because I thought, okay, if anybody's going to elicit some specifics out of Kamala, it'll be Oprah, right? Oprah's going to do her velvet glove treatment as Kamala loves to answer questions with a preamble that can sort of lead her on these roads to nowhere.
Middle-class family.
Middle-class family. As you know, I prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, her 3 favorite words in the English language.
She did it again.
She did it again. But Oprah padded this 90-minute special with all of these like people who were speaking as Kamala's surrogates before Kamala enters. And then Kamala begins with her bullshit. There was nothing of substance. And you saw it when Oprah was like trying to get this answer out of her about immigration. And she's going on about the transnationals and blah, 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 blah. And she finally finishes and Oprah says, right, but what would you do? You're going to sign a bill, right? When it hits your desk, you'll sign. Oh, yes. That was the one thing we got out of that incredibly thin gruel.
Which we already heard. We already heard her say that at the debate. It wasn't even news that they made. Here is that moment.
What would be specific steps to strengthening the border?
So it's a wonderful and important question. You know, my background was as a prosecutor, and I was also the elected attorney general for 2 terms of a border state. So this is not a theoretical issue for me. Sadly, where we are now can be traced most recently back to the fact that when the United States Congress, members of the Congress, including some of the most conservative Republicans, came up with a border security bill, and Donald Trump called up those folks and said, don't put that bill on the floor for a vote. My work and my career has always been about saying, let's fix problems. Let's address the needs, because we know it's within our capacity to do that.
So to answer Justin's question, now that that bill has gone and hasn't passed, will you reintroduce that?
Absolutely. And when I am elected president of the United States, I will make sure that bill gets to my desk and I will sign it into law.
We already knew that, Oprah. She said that at the debate. Oprah is no longer in the business of staying up on the news. I bet she didn't even watch the damn debate. She's reading undoubtedly from blue cards her staff gave her. That's how the Oprah Winfrey show was shot. Oprah didn't have to think of her own questions. I know. I've spoken with her executive producers over the years, all of them. And there was no ad-libbing. It was all impromptu or on a blue card for Oprah. She doesn't know she's not making big news with this revelation. She said she'll sign the same shitty so-called border bill that they rejected last time because it would let 5,000 illegals over the border a day.
Yeah. Also, I thought while watching that, Oprah and her producers were in constant communication with Kamala and her team. They were given every talking point they were going to hit. This is the best she can do, by the way. When they give her the talking points in advance, when they say, we're going to have a girl stand up, that poor girl who talks about her childhood sexual abuse. Mm-hmm. And what does Kamala do? Oprah, I don't know if you've heard this story, but you know, when I was in high school, my best friend was being sexually abused by her stepfather. And I said, we've heard this story so many times. And it makes me crazy because she is using this poor woman's sexual abuse as a valorization of herself.
So true.
It's so disgusting. And then to watch the likes of Julia Roberts up there on her Zoom. Oh, Madam Vice President. Oh, and by the way, hi, Oprah. And Oprah's like, hi, Oprah. Don't I get more? And she's like, well, we just saw each other. You know, this whole idea that it's this clubby elite group of celebrities who are deigning to speak with the great unwashed about the future of this country. Mm-hmm. Meryl Streep, to your intro, who called Harvey God at like the Oscars or the Globes or whatever, is up there pretending to go, President Harris.
It was such acting. It was unusually bad for Meryl Streep. We have that moment. Let's watch it.
Hello, President Harris.
Not yet.
I can tell you're acting.
47 days.
47 days, yes.
From my mouth to God's ear. And hello, Oprah. I wanted to ask you, I can't believe I have this opportunity. I probably never will again. I have a little Debbie Downer moment because actually, I think you're going to win. I'm sure you're going to win. I Yeah. But what happens when you win and he doesn't accept it? I wonder if we're ready for January 7th, 8th, 9th, and what happens? What happens?
Oh my God. Maureen, reaction. Reaction.
What happens? What happens? Will you save us? Well, you know, Kamala's answer was substantive as usual. It's like, okay, let's take a step back. For a candidate who loves to posit herself as that of the future, she's always loving taking a step back to educate the rest of us as to how we got here, as if we're not living it in real time in ways none of these elitists are.
She doesn't know the answer, so it's just stall tactic.
Stall tactic, the fact that, all these filler words.
Yes. And the repetition, our dreams and hopes and aspirations, our thoughts, is like she just does a string of consciousness on every word she can come up with to substitute for the first word just to stall actual substance.
Did you happen to see John McWhorter on Bill Maher defending her with this garbage verbiage?
What? John McWhorter, it's a betrayal.
I know. I love him as well. But he actually said her words don't actually mean the words that she's spouting. I couldn't believe this came out of his mouth. The words are mere symbols of what she's trying to express. And when she speaks in triplicate, as she does to people who are like, I can't afford to buy a home. Well, young people with their goals, their dreams, their ambitions, like all this stuff that's meant to make her sound smart, but it just makes her sound full of hot air. There's nothing coming out. There's no substance.
Maureen,
help me.
I've said this before. There was a personality on Fox News who shall go nameless for the purposes of this discussion who used to do this. And I used to watch her and marvel because this is how she would answer certain questions. You know, what do you think about the Democrats doing X? I think it's inappropriate, it's wrong, it's deeply problematic, and it must be stopped. And we are just the ones to stop it. We are not going to tolerate this for one more minute, not one more day, not another month. It's outrageous what they've done, and it must come to an end. Every answer sounded like that. You've said nothing. You've said it forcefully, but you've said absolutely nothing. And I used to marvel at like the word salad that was offered up by this person and accepted by others as somehow legit analysis. And that is who Kamala Harris reminds me of. Just filler to cover an absence of actual knowledge.
Yeah, and her answer to Merrill, who's cowering in her multi-million-dollar estate as to what happens after the election that she's so sure Kamala's going to win, whatever, was that, well, we just can't tolerate it. We can't tolerate it.
What does that even mean?
And she speaks, I know you've touched on this, but the other thing that bothers me about her immensely is her voice. I find it so grating to listen to. It's nasal. It's glottal. She's vocal fry adjacent. Is she not a prosecutor of transnational organizations, or is she not? Why does she speak like a 13-year-old girl? She's so tremulous.
Okay, so I've got to add one thing to that. So here's the other thing. This is a visual for the people listening. Go to youtube.com/Megyn Kelly. You can see it. We're at 12:13 p.m. That's where you can find it. 13 minutes into the show. Her schoolgirl affectations and body movements. Like, okay, ready? Here it is. Like, okay. She raises herself off her chair. Like, I'm just really excited. I'm really excited about this. Okay.
You're so right. Okay. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something you haven't heard yet.
Yeah.
I'm going to blow your mind.
Okay. Right, like that.
Right.
Can't do
and
the cackle.
By the way, the only time she laughed last night, because you're so right about her team, like, controlling this cackling, was when she talked about the idea that she might shoot a home invader with her handgun.
We have
and
that.
She laughed.
We have that one. Watch.
When you said you have guns. No, at the debate.
I'm a gun owner. Tim Walz is a gun.
I did not know that.
If somebody breaks in my house, they're getting shot. Sorry.
Yes. I hear that.
Probably should not have said that.
But
my staff will deal with that later.
Yeah.
She's not funny. Like the pretend laughing is so, like Oprah's pretending to laugh. And by the way, can I just say, I'll let you finish your point on the gun, but the Oprah affect is done. It's so over. Her fake, like, I did not know that, right? Like she she's leaning into this like homegirl, like, what? I learned something. And her yelling, she yelled at us all night. Oprah was yelling. I'll show it to you in a second. You take up the matter of the gun.
I know. Well, the gun thing is like, they're talking about school shootings and gun violence in America and all of this stuff. And Kamala, in her great generalities, it must stop, blah, 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 assault weapons ban, all the talking points. She could not bring herself, as also this is one of her favorite lines, that which unites us is stronger than that which divides us.
And what has been?
Bang my head into the nearest brick wall the next time I hear it. She could not bring herself to acknowledge that Donald Trump has been the target of 2 assassination attempts within 9 weeks. Talk about gun violence and talk about the pressing need for real, honest conversation. She can't do it.
No.
She can't bring herself to have that generosity of spirit, that sort of uniting thing she wants to bring to all of us. And to your point about Oprah, I was thinking about this because I was looking at those pictures coming out of Diddy's parties historically and the Oprahs and all of these people who pretend that they're not all part of this sort of cabal of people who know exactly what's going on at any given moment. And you're going to sit there 2 days after he was arrested on these incredibly serious charges.
Yes.
The abuse, the ritual, chronic, historical abuse of women. And you're just going to sit there like none of that has happened.
Right.
And we're just going to talk about, I'm Oprah, I'm anointing this one. Let's do this, America. Let's have a confab. Let's have the biggest Zoom meeting ever. That's what she called it. Those 1,000 screens. It's
ridiculous.
It's just all such bullshit. And it's just like the hypocrisy is, even Tracy Ellis Ross said something like that when she was sort of dismissive of Oprah. She said, well, you and I just saw each other. And that's the rub. They all know each other.
Yeah.
They all party together. They all see each other. It's like they're in this bubble and they're the power brokers and we just deal with the fallout.
Yeah.
We're the morons who deal with it.
When was the last time Oprah actually spent time hanging out with a working class person in America? She's on her Montecito estate with one of the most beautiful mansions known to man. Mm-hmm. And that is why she did not follow up with Kamala Harris in response to that stupid gun question with, well, you're on camera saying that you favor mandatory gun buybacks. So how would that work? Mm-hmm. Because people are worried about losing their guns when you say that, and you'll have yours because you'll, in this scenario, be the president of the United States. You'll have Secret Service protecting your life. Whose gun are you going to mandate be returned who won't have that kind of protection under a Harris administration? You can craft that question in a number of ways, but it must be crafted if you're an honest broker. She's not. Here's the thing. The Oprah enthusiasm worked when it was genuine. Mm-hmm. When she first hit the scene in like the 1980s and she was fresh out of Chicago, she was in Chicago for the launch of her national talk show. She was something electric and interesting and authentic, I miss fat Oprah. She was just genuine. Now this thin Ozempic Oprah has lost, along with the pounds, her heart, her sense of authenticity. And what we're getting these days is this cleansed elite billionaire version who wants to scrub the record of facts. So it used to work for her to go out there and say like, the Oprah Winfrey Show, Tom Cruise, right? And you'd be like, Tom Cruise, because television was different.
Oh, 100%.
It was just different. You could take that kind of behavior in your living room and it wasn't quite as jarring. I had such a different experience of her last night. The yelling, her quintessential Oprah thing. I was like, what is she doing? This feels affected, forced, and it's making me uncomfortable. We pulled together just a few examples.
Thanks for joining us for this very special event, Unite for America! Hope and joy rising. And there's been can you feel it? You can feel it. You can feel it. You can feel it. We can feel it. Chefs for Kamala, love that group. Republicans for Harris, love that group even more. We've got Swifties, where are you? Swifties for Kamala! I hear Chris Rock is in the house. Chris, where are you? Chris Rock is in the house. Jennifer Lopez, where are you, Jennifer? Yes! Julia Roberts.
She's out making
where
another
are
wrong
you?
choice. Julia Roberts.
And Miss Meryl Streep is in the house. Please welcome Kamala Harris.
I can't believe. Do you see my point? That's enough of that. About how it feels off, given the way we talk to one another, do news with one another, break stories with one another in 2024 America. We do it via podcast. We do it sometimes on cable news. Broadcast news is dead, but we do it in more intimate settings where we have long form discussions and we give people time to talk. And the days of Oprah Winfrey are over.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Oprah, to your earlier question, which I loved, like, when do you think the last time Oprah spent time with, like, anyone working or middle class? I would say when she was down in Maui panhandling among the victims of those wildfires for them to give money instead of Oprah just cutting a check.
Yeah.
Just cut a check. I also lost faith in her. I lost faith in her back when she was promulgating The Secret. Do you remember?
Yes, I forgot about that.
Australian woman who was like, if you just wish it hard enough, it'll come to you.
Oh, Marianne Williamson backed that, I think.
I think so too. Another presidential candidate.
Yes.
So when she did her Ozempic special, and that was a hit, and she did a second one, and she blamed America for her being fat. She blamed us.
Oh my God.
I couldn't believe it.
We forced her to eat.
We're to blame? Are we, the people who have watched you and made you inordinately wealthy, are to blame for your issues with food that you could not get under control with the best in nutritionists and trainers and chefs and stop it.
Right.
And then did you see the AI special she did with Bill Gates?
No, God.
I didn't watch it either. I saw the promo, but I thought, here she is scrubbing the rep of a problematic billionaire who's got his own sexual problematic issues in the workplace. His wife quickly divorced him when his ties to Epstein came out. What is Oprah doing? Bathing this guy in the national spotlight so we can just love our nerdy, book-loving Bill Gates again.
Well, so here's another thing. As you pointed out at the top of the show, she built her name on she's for victims. You know, she's for women, she's for kids. Okay. What is the Harris Waltz campaign going to do to America's kids? They're going to allow them to chop off body parts when they are minors and can't smoke and can't drink and can't get a driver's license. They're going to, as they did in Tim Walz's home state of Minnesota, we just did a deep dive. I recommend it to all the audience that hit this morning on this. They're going to allow kids to be removed from their parents' custody and brought to Minnesota for sex change operations without parental consent when they are minors, when they're little. Because Tim Walz thinks that not to affirm them with his so-called gender affirming care is abuse. Where's Oprah's question about that? I didn't see any care shown for what's about to happen to these children in her running mate's home state. Never mind what's going to be done in a, God forbid, a Harris Walz administration. Not a question for them.
You're so right about that. Not a question about what is happening to girls and women in sports or in schools or in prisons or in shelters.
Right.
Not a single question, because Oprah has long ago divested herself of the common man and woman. She really has. She's in this post-network kind of like, I don't know exactly what her brand is anymore. I truly believe she thinks she's a kingmaker or a queenmaker. I think she feels the heady rush of, this is like Obama in 08. You know, I'm going to come out and I'm going to like put my back behind this and I'm going to get America to vote for my chosen candidate, when we all know what a disaster this woman is. She cannot talk extemporaneously about anything. And she's been in the job for 3.5 years.
Anything.
We
have some examples of that, which we should get to. Okay. This is the one making the rounds on the internet, and it's great. It's one of the many making the rounds on the internet, and it's great. Let's take a look at SOT 1.
We love our country. I love our country. I know we all do. That's why everybody's here right now. We love our country. We take pride in the privilege of being American.
Oh, God.
We are an optimistic people. Americans, by character, are people who have dreams and ambitions and aspirations. We believe in what is possible. We believe in what can be. And we believe in fighting for that. That's how we came into being. Because the people before us understood that one of the greatest expressions for the love of our country, one of the greatest expressions of patriotism, is to fight for the ideals of who we are.
Oh my God.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Absolutely nothing was said. Nothing.
I used to always say on your show, especially Meghan Markle is our greatest performance artist.
Yeah.
This might be her replacement.
Yeah.
This feels like parody, like satire, like camp. Like there's like, we're all being punked.
Yes.
Like at some point they're going to say like, this is just a joke. Right? This must be a joke.
Right. Where's the big reveal that, of course, we're not actually running this person for president?
And you know what's crazy too, especially this past weekend, in reading the op-eds in like the Times and even the Journal, people on her side are giving her these scripts, how to answer these questions. You're for mass immigration, now you're against it, explain that pivot. You were against fracking, now you're for it, explain that pivot. They're writing these things for her in their columns. And I don't know whether it's her team or her own ego that will not allow her to study something like that.
She did for the
and just
debate.
use it.
She did for the debate, but she won't hear. Well, she won't actually get substantive, and she didn't do that on the debate, but she had her memorized answers. And let me tell you something else. Oprah Winfrey's not a journalist. She started off as a journalist way back in the day, in the early 80s, but she hasn't been in a long time. And when you're not a journalist, you can give the person all of the questions in advance. You can run over the Q&A and how it's going to go with their person in advance. It's not very ethical. It's not smart, and it's dishonest with your audience. But there's not like a generally accepted journalistic principle of never doing that would apply to you. And I know this to be the case because I've said this before, but I've gone on The View before. They give you all the questions in advance. They give you the blue note card with their questions pre-written on it for you to study. I'm like, I think I'm good. I'll be able to ad-lib my answers, whatever they ask me. They did it on The View. The executive producer of Tamron Hall once tried to get me to go on that show, said explicitly, we'll give you all the questions in advance. You'll have them written down. I'm like, I'm not going on Tamron Hall, and I don't need your written questions. But this is done all the time. And no one had any doubt watching her interview Meghan Markle that they had rehearsed that. Wait, what? They wanted to know how dark the baby would be, right? And Meghan Markle with the wounded acknowledgement. That's what we saw last night. It was two actresses. Oh, we have that? Okay, let's watch it.
In those months when I was pregnant, all around this same time. So we have in tandem the conversation of he won't be given security. He's not going to be given a title. And also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What?
And
Who is having that conversation with you? What?
so,
There is a conversation. Hold up.
there's
Stop
several
right now.
there are several conversations.
There's a
about
conversation with you
it. With Harry.
about how dark your baby is going to be?
Potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
Ooh. And you're not going to tell me who had the conversation?
I think that would be very damaging to them.
And she didn't ask, will you at least rule out Prince Philip, who is literally dying right now in the hospital? But would you do him the courtesy of saying it's not him?
Right?
No.
No.
Or the
No.
Queen? Would you rule
No.
her out? No. Wouldn't. No. I'd love to leave it dangling out there and smear the entire royal family. That's my thing.
100%.
She did it again. It was two actresses last night, same as it was with Meghan Markle.
And it's such a disservice to the American people because, remember when there was this sort of drumbeat after Oprah gave this speech at the Globes, like Oprah for president?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, right? And she's such, to use your phrase, a dishonest broker, because if you're going to put something like that out there with your star power, you owe it to the American people to say, this is a chat that we've sort of pre-arranged and we've talked a little bit before. You could just say it, like we've talked a bit before about what we're going to hit tonight, but don't make it seem like you are an interlocutor that is just completely unassailable and your job is to be the means by which we all get to know Kamala Harris and what she do.
Real facts, like you're Mike Wallace.
Yeah.
What a joke.
Yeah.
So the only real questions that came Kamala's way, and again, this would all be pre-screened, I guarantee you, this is my opinion, but that Kamala knew about all these questions in advance. For sure, Oprah had reviewed all these questions in advance. That's not unusual. When you have a town hall, you as the anchor, the team has to pick representatives to ask questions, and you want to make sure they're not all on one subject. That's fine. But listen to how Kamala Harris did in trying to actually answer real questions about real issues like the economy in SOT 5.
We really would love to know what your plan is to help lower the cost of living.
Yeah, first of all, thank you both for being here. And yours is a story I hear around the country as I travel. And in terms of both rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams and ambitions for your family and working hard and finding that the American dream is, for this generation and so many recently, far more elusive than it's been. And we need to deal with that. And there are a number of ways. One is bringing down the cost of everyday necessities, including groceries.
She did it again.
I was waiting for Oprah to say, are you going to fix prices at grocery stores? Meaning like actually have a federal mandate that every economist on the planet has said would be a disaster? But no.
Right. But that you signed on to? Like at least that would be a substantive answer.
No.
How about that?
No.
Aspirations and dreams.
Goals.
If those people were honest, both the ones who asked her the immigration question, that guy who asked her that, and these two who asked her this question about the economy, they're going home and thinking,
What I love too about that couple that they picked, they had purchased a home. They're underwater on their mortgage. Their sister, one of the sisters and the brother-in-law moved in. And so Kamala's talking up first-time home buyers get $25K, which again, we don't know how that's going to be financed, but they don't qualify then. They already bought a house. How does that help them?
That's right. Here's the other thing. They paraded back out the young woman who spoke at the DNC who said she was the victim of incest at the hands of her stepfather, and that under Trump's so-called abortion ban, which is not a thing,
right?
She wouldn't be able to have an abortion because he doesn't favor exceptions for rape or incest, when Trump is explicitly on the record over and over and over again saying he does favor those exceptions. So the lie was again peddled upon these voters without any clarification from Oprah, who is complicit in the lies. And then back to Kamala, she had, let me set it up this way. J.D. Vance, in response to one of her many word salad answers earlier in this campaign, tweeted out the infamous video of that young beauty pageant contestant who was like, I really think in the Iraq that like they don't have maps there, or whatever she said. It was just this long, rambling, embarrassing answer. And listen to Kamala Harris last night in SOT 2.
Oprah is vice president. I've met over 150 world leaders, presidents, prime ministers, chancellors, and kings. And the thing about representing the United States of America is when we walk in those rooms around the world,
why?
We have historically and traditionally been able to walk in those rooms, chin up, shoulders back, with the self-appointed and earned authority to talk about the importance of democracies. People around the world are watching right now. Because you see, the thing about walking into a room and being a role model is people watch what you do to see if it lines up with what you say.
Okay. It is, I'm sorry, Miss Teen USA contestant, but it is you, SOT 3. Here it is again.
Okay. Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. Or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for our children.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
For our children.
God bless her.
That's Kamala Harris. God bless her. She doesn't want people to use that clip anymore. I'm sorry, my dear. It's in the public domain.
It's out there forever.
And so that's Kamala Harris, the United States of the America. When we walk into the room, people want to have their chins up. They want to have pride
that
in the America.
Do what we say we're going to do, such as our withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Right.
That is probably the biggest black eye, foreign policy-wise, we've had since Vietnam. That has left the Taliban in so much power that women are now not allowed to speak in public.
Yeah.
Women cannot speak. They cannot be heard singing or reading aloud from inside the four walls of their own homes.
Did Oprah get to that?
I don't think we
remember
had
that
time,
one.
maybe, because we had a guy with a man bun representing white folks, white dudes.
Right, white dudes.
White dudes for Kamala.
And that's how she began. She was like, we've got all the groups together, the white dudes for Kamala, the cat ladies for Kamala. Meanwhile, it's like, okay, at Trump's rallies, all those people come together, the white dudes, the white ladies, the Republicans, the Democrats who are voting. They don't need labels acknowledging their skin color or their lady parts. And guess what? That's how the rest of America works too. Only the Democrats are constantly trying to divide us into subsections based on our genitalia or our skin color over which we have no control. It's so weird. This penchant by her is so bizarre. I do want to show Julia Roberts' moment. Here's Julia.
And I want people to say,
Jeffrey Dahmer glasses
you're
on.
American?
Glasses, so she looks smart.
And not, how's it going over there? You know?
Yes.
So I want to get back to that space.
Exactly. Thank you, Julia.
What circles do they travel in?
It's amazing that they think the answer to their perception that America is being laughed at is to elect this idiot.
Yeah, right.
That's going to solve the problem. 4 years of this, of nonsense. 4 years of, I also, as with the ABC debate, the big question I think many of us have vis-a-vis Kamala is about Joe Biden. What did you know? And when did you know it? And explain this to us. And who's running the country right now? Why is it that when there's a school shooting in Georgia, they don't ask Biden what he thinks? They ask you. If they can get you off of your earbuds as you're dashing past the press corps and running up the steps of Air Force Two.
Right. Speaking of the ABC debate, there's a little news on that front today. We've been following whether there is anything to this report that there may be an ABC whistleblower who we've seen an alleged affidavit. This is not, we haven't been verifying. This has not yet been verified as legit, but a Twitter account that goes under the name of Black Insurrectionist has been posting the documents. And in this alleged affidavit, this insider at ABC who says he or she has worked there for 10 years in tech and administrative departments claims that there was an agreement in advance by ABC and the Kamala Harris campaign not to cover certain subjects, including Joe Biden's mental acuity. Now, ABC has denied it in a very generic, weird statement, saying we followed the rules of the debate, which didn't allow us to give questions in advance. That doesn't answer whether they agreed certain topics would be off limits, like mental acuity, or Kamala's brother-in-law, Tony West, who had a bit of a scandal over at the DOJ and continues to be embroiled. And the third topic was Kamala Harris's time as AG. So it's a non-denial denial. And now we have a senator from, I think it's the great state of Kansas, on the record saying he is going to, is it subpoena documents? Yes, subpoena documents from ABC. Do we have that sound, you guys? It's not sound. Okay. It's just him saying it. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Senator Roger Marshall demanding the ABC turn over any communications it exchanged with Kamala Harris's campaign prior to the debate. ABC News did not immediately respond to this request or comment on the letter. But here's what's interesting. If, in fact, there is any sort of a congressional hearing into this, then we'll get oral testimony, which is also evidence. I mean, I got to admit, if ABC did this, and, you know, we don't know what the truth is.
Right.
But if they couldn't possibly be stupid enough to put it in writing. However, if there's any sort of a hearing, if there really is an alleged whistleblower, said person could be subpoenaed, is apparently wanting to testify, if this person even exists, wanting to testify and tell their story. And then we might be able to hear this on the record, and this person claims that they have tapes of these conversations. I want to say again, this could all be a hoax. This could be somebody trying to punk us all, just get us talking about this in fairness to ABC. But since nobody will cover the story at all, even after ABC's weird denial, I feel the need to continue reminding people this is out there and it has not been resolved.
No, and there were weirdly specific allegations in that document, such as the request from Kamala's team that her podium be smaller. Stuff like that goes to stagecraft. And it was. And you would think if this were complete bullshit, there would be a total denial from Kamala's camp. The last thing she would want people to think, given that this is criticism number one of her, is that she had been spoon-fed questions or told, don't worry, we're going to keep our gloves on. You're not going to be asked about the things that are most difficult for you to answer. And you would also think, I mean, I don't know, you would know more than I about how it works in network news, but a moderator would also want to be completely like, no. I'm a journalist. I would never.
Yes. But they wouldn't let the moderators speak out. I guarantee you. I mean, when I was at NBC and I had my dust up with Alex Jones, where he was coming for me and we were doing this piece on him, I was like, let me just go out there and talk about it. It wasn't actually about him being upset with me. It was about the audience being upset that I was even interviewing him. And I said, let me go out and speak to this. I'm happy to go out there and say, Diane Sawyer interviewed Charles Manson. Mike Wallace interviewed the head of the KKK in his hood. Like, controversial people get interviewed by journalists. It happens all the time. And they would not let me speak to it. They were hardcore, like, no. So there's no doubt in my mind, even if these two moderators wanted to say something, ABC would not allow it. All we've gotten so far is Dana Walden, who is the chairperson, like second in command or up at the top of Disney, coming out, and she was asked this question, I think, at the Emmys, and here's what happened with her.
Got to talk about Kamala Harris. Obviously, the far right has come after you, saying you're friends with her, so the debate was biased. What do you say to that?
I really don't want to dignify it with much of a response. I have the highest regard for everyone at ABC News. It's the most professional organization, the most top-notch journalists, and it doesn't really dignify much of a response.
Is it?
I think it does dignify a response.
Yeah.
We're talking about an incredibly consequential presidential election. Absolutely dignifies a response. And again, correct me if I'm naive in this, but if you are that powerful and you are extremely close friends with this candidate, you introduced her to her husband, would you not say publicly, I am recusing myself from anything having to do with this debate?
Yep.
I am out of it. Like, don't brief me. I don't want to know anything.
Yep.
Right?
Yes,
why not
exactly.
just say that?
And why wouldn't ABC News be more specific in its denial? As Phil Houston always says, by the lie, CIA guy, the truth is your friend when you are a truth teller. You run to it. You love details. You would love to say, let me just be clear. No questions were given. No sample questions were given. No communications with her team about anything substantive around questions was ever discussed. We never agreed that any single subject would be off limits, nor were we asked for such a thing, or we were asked for such a thing, and we refused. Every conversation that we had with the teams was done with both teams present, whatever. Like, it would be a very simple thing to do, just to get on the record the integrity of your news organization, because this story is being spread and highlighted by some very prominent Americans, from Bill Ackman, who's demanding an SEC investigation, Securities and Exchange Commission, because this is a publicly traded company, to Ted Cruz and Elon Musk and beyond. And not to mention President Trump, who went on Gutfeld the other night and actually said the following.
Look, the media is extremely dishonest, extremely corrupt, actually. Look at the debate I walked off. I said, that's debate. You know, they said I'm the GOAT in debates because I had a lot of debates and I became president. And the GOAT means greatest of all time. He's a GOAT. And I walked off that stage and I thought I had the best debate. And I was very unfairly treated by the anchor. I'm not fans of those guys anymore. And his hair was better 5 years ago than it is now. Okay? That happens. That happens with the clock.
I mean, who among us?
That happens with the clock. But, you know, they came at me on everything like crime. Yeah. They attacked the bloodbath. That was referring to the auto industry. Right. You know all these things. Yeah. Charlottesville was totally debunked by everybody, all of them. And they didn't correct her once, and they corrected me everything I said practically.
And I had Eric Trump on the show the other day after his father was almost shot to death for the second time. Somebody was about to take a shot. And he said, too, we need to look into this. I mean, this allegation from this alleged whistleblower. Like, we deserve to have a real answer.
Yeah, I heard that interview. It was great. And yes, I could not agree more. What is the issue? This is the thing. She's only given 6 interviews. What are we, 48 days out now? And yeah. So where's the clamoring for an interview that feels somewhat, I don't mean adversarial for the sake of adversarial, but I really do mean sitting down with an outlet that isn't an MSNBC or an Oprah or run by your best friend that's going to put questions to you that are substantive, and let's see if you can answer them. The media loved nothing more when Sarah Palin was running for VP. They loved nothing more. Saturday Night Live is about to premiere very soon. Are we going to see this kind of skewering? You know, Tina Fey became a superstar off of her Palin impression, but we're not going to get that with Kamala.
They'll hurt her in ways that don't really hurt her.
Exactly.
They'll have a joke at her expense that never really lays a glove on her. I mean, what about a press conference? Let's just see. Give us 1 hour standing. Charlie Kirk tweeted this the other day in front of a diverse press corps with all different outlets and answer multiple questions from multiple different outlets. And then you'll at least get some adversarial questions in there, which are important. Skepticism in news is important. It's the way the system works, especially when it comes to politicians. She'll never do it. And these polls are razor thin, the margin between these two. So it is very possible that without ever having to answer a tough question, she could ride right into the White House, and we have no idea who she really is.
I know, it's incredible. I can only hope that if that is the campaign they are planning to continue to run, Kamala from the metaphorical basement, that it will be the thing that is ultimately her undoing. I can only hope, because we are being asked to just, you know, when you were talking about earlier, the way that the Dems and the Oprah special loves to put people into these subgroups, you know, that like the subtext of all of that is the thing that they're not saying out loud, which is, well, you got to vote for her because she's a woman of color. You got to vote for her. That's it. That's what we're doing here, right? That's the subtext of the joy, the uplift,
Oprah.
Oprah, you know, and that's not it. That's not it. Not in a country where our borders are completely insecure. All of it, you know, we've been talking about it.
They're going to be in trouble, I'll tell you, because the latest polls show that Taylor Swift, who endorsed Kamala, her approval rating is lower than that of Donald Trump. So be careful what you wish for on these big celebrity endorsements. More with Maureen straight ahead. Imagine waking up one day to find out that your home no longer belongs to you, that someone somewhere has stolen your property right out from under you. It sounds unthinkable, but it is a sad reality for some American homeowners and a risk for anyone that owns property. House stealing, that's what the FBI calls it. It's a form of real estate fraud where scammers leverage loopholes in the system to fraudulently transfer your home's title into their name and then take out loans against your property or even sell it behind your back. And by the time you find out, the scammer's long gone, leaving you, the legitimate homeowner, to clean up the mess. But right now, triple lock protection is available through HomeTitleLock.com, offering 24/7 title monitoring, alerts, and restoration services. You can sign up today at HomeTitleLock.com and use the promo code Megyn, MEGYN, for 30 days of protection for free and a comprehensive title scan to make sure you're not already a victim. That's promo code Megyn and HomeTitleLock.com, or just use the link below. Maureen, this just came in. President Biden, that is, he's still in office, FYI. He just held his first cabinet meeting in I don't know how many months. And the question is, or did he? He showed up and promptly tossed control to Jill Biden. Watch this.
We're grateful that Jill is here today. Heard that clapping. It wasn't for me when we came in. And here across previous administration, First Ladies have attended these meetings for specific reasons. This is the first time Jill has joined us, and it goes to show how important the issue is, which she's about to speak to the both of us. Today, at the top of our meeting, Jill's going to give an update on the House initiative, White House initiative, to fundamentally change the approach and fund how we approach and fund women's health services. So I'd like to turn it over to Jill and for any comments she has, and it's all yours, kid.
Thank you. You know, sometimes the White House surprises you.
Yeah, they certainly do. Like with this move, he starts off by saying, oh, it's not unusual for first ladies to attend cabinet meetings. Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't remember seeing that. I mean, sure, it's happened in history, but this is not a common occurrence. And you could hear he could barely get out the words. He couldn't say White House.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of when Bill Clinton let Chelsea sit in on like major Mideast meetings with major power brokers. And it was kind of like, just looked at us like, oh, he's a doting dad. This is freaking weird. Yeah, the White House will surprise you, like when they organize a coup because you refuse to leave because you've clearly been covering up your husband's dementia. Mm-hmm. And she's just, it looks like she's going full on Lady McBiden.
Yeah. Yes. You know? Yes. I think we just heard that she's going to be leading some delegation down to Mexico for the inauguration of the president down there. And that's weird too. Mm-hmm. The first lady's supposed to cut ribbons and like go be with cute children and call attention to good charitable causes. Well, she's acting like a fake president, like a stand-in for him.
I've always thought if she really cared about him more than the power, she would have convinced him long ago it was time to exit stage left. He was ruining his legacy for the good of the country, all of that. And she hasn't done it, and she won't do it.
No.
And, you know, this was something I really wanted to mention to you in particular. The way the DNC did him so dirty, you know, the way it was all covered, like they couldn't give him just a night. I really took that as like, this is how much he is loathed within the party. I took it as like, they couldn't give him that because they didn't want to, because they felt he had just taken advantage of his time. He was in the office. He was lying to people. He was power grabbing. It was all of that stuff. His relationship with Obama is very fractured, despite what they would have us believe. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's liked.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, I'm sure you make a lot of enemies to become president in general, but it does seem like, look, his own party took him down. Nancy Pelosi, my dear friend, I hope we're still friends. Oh, sure. Mm-hmm. All right. You know, we all watched the movie Psycho. Mm-hmm. You stuck that knife in him over and over and over again. No, you're not. You don't have a friend in Joe Biden anymore. Mm-hmm. And we understand why. Okay, now speaking of the ruination of one's legacy, let's talk about P. Diddy, Sean Combs. My God, he is in a whole ton of trouble. And it goes well beyond even what's in the indictment, which includes charges for racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Under racketeering conspiracy, they allege multiple acts of kidnapping, arson, bribery, forced labor, prostitution, illegal sex activities, possession with intent to distribute, narcotics and controlled substances, including cocaine and oxycodone, alprazolam. I don't know what that is, but I'm sure it goes on, and so on. And now we're seeing other people come out and other facts come forward, including the publication on Amazon of what purports to be, this is another story where we're putting an asterisk on it for the audience, purports to be a book with the words of his dead ex-partner, who is said to have died from pneumonia. But this woman, if you believe Kim's lost words, that's what it's titled, this woman, when she knew she was dying, said, quote, "He got me," which would suggest she thought she was dying at his hand in some way. This is an explosive 60-page cobbled together Amazon book by a man who says he's received her journals and memos from a friend of hers that she reportedly sent her final thoughts, which documented the relationship to some extent, to multiple friends in the hopes that it would be maintained and be out there if anything should happen to her or if she should pass. And at least one of them came to him, and that he was also offered the sex tapes that this woman said she had in her possession. Now, I am connected with somebody involved in this case, and I did ask that person, do you believe there are sex tapes in the possession of the authorities? And this person said, absolutely. Do not know what exactly they show, though, at this point, but that there's no doubt that the feds have sex tapes of P. Diddy's. So that's what we'll kick it off. What do you make of Kim's lost words and this indictment in general?
I mean, I've read really salient portions of the book that names. It all tracks. It feels to me very much like Nicole Brown Simpson towards the end of her life, where she put all of this evidence in a bank. And she said to her friends, if anything happens to me, open that security box. It's all in there. And that's what happened. And when you look back at P. Diddy, I think he's going away forever. I don't think he'll see daylight again.
I agree with you.
He has a very long history of criminality dating back to 1991, a City College event that he promoted. It was a stampede. 9 people died. The youngest was 15. He walked scot-free. He viciously beat a record exec named Steve Stout in the mid-90s, got away with it, made a record executive, another one, crawl on all fours with a gun to his head. And then, of course, there was the infamous nightclub shooting in 99 with J-Lo. And that's covered in Kim's book. And I remember when that happened, and everybody covering that story knew he was guilty. Everyone knew. And they knew there was a rapper named Shine who was his so-called protege. He was going to make Shine take the fall. And it's still talked about in hip-hop circles on hip-hop albums to this day.
Shine did take the fall.
Shine took the fall, did the time, got out. I think he's in South America now.
10 years. That was the sentence. And the victim who got shot in the face has been saying ever since, it wasn't Shine. It was P. Diddy. I saw who shot me. And yet, no, if that's in fact what he did, he totally got away with it. This other guy took the fall. This would be a proven history of not just violence, but, attempted murder. And possibly worse. I mean, the indictment itself goes on about his alleged arson against someone he believed was flirting or sleeping with his later girlfriend after Kim, Cassie. That this was Kid Cudi. Thank you. I'm not too up to speed on my rappers. Kid Cudi, that he dropped a Molotov cocktail in his car and blew it up. I mean, that is extremely dangerous stuff. And we had a prosecutor on the show a special that we released the other day, saying just the guns and the drugs alone, if they can just prove that, forget all the sex stuff, he'll be in jail for life.
Good for him. It's exactly where he belongs. I've been reading this stuff. Did you happen to see, oh my God, the Post had this amazing piece last night from a drug dealer who had delivered to one of Puffy's parties in the Hamptons.
Oh boy.
And the dealer walked in and he said, Puffy waved me to a back room and I'm seeing all these male rappers like having sex with each other, and it's like an orgy. And the dealer goes, I lost complete respect for Puffy in that moment. And I thought, well, when you've lost the drug dealers of the world, I think you've lost America.
I mean, we do need to spend a minute on the gay thing because it appears pretty clear Puffy is gay. Or I don't really think bi is real. I just think you're either one or the other, and you kind of
interesting.
You may have a little journey over to the other side, but you've got a predominant preference, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
and his appears to be for men,
100%,
which undermines like this tough guy image that he is constantly projecting. And I have to say, like, there's quite a bit of testimonial about what he's been doing to these so-called male sex workers and men coming up in the music industry. And that is a disturbing piece of this Kim's book, where she alleges that there were a couple of young, very well-known rising pop stars that she has him on tape either having sex with or abusing, depending on the age. I can't tell exactly how old these guys are. That, if that's true, it's going to be huge news.
It's going to be huge. It's concerning, I think, if those names come out for those people. To your point about Puffy largely being gay, I think it's salient because I think it explains the extreme misogyny, the beatings of the women, Cassie especially. We've all seen that videotape.
Yes.
The mutilating of them, the threatening of them. He hates women. And you often, I think people sometimes make the mistake when talking about separating the art from the artist. It's all over his work. The violence, the misogyny, the threats. He named his company Bad Boy. You know, it's all over it. There's one artist who worked with Puffy, Diddy, whatever, as a young man. Usher went on Howard Stern several years ago, I think. Remember that?
Yes, we have this soundbite. Let's watch it. This is Usher on Howard Stern. Oh, it was a while ago.
Yeah.
SOT 23.
I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
You were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it. And it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
So nobody tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place. And I didn't necessarily understand it.
Would you ever send your kid to Puffy Camp?
Hell no.
Okay, you were saying Usher on Howard Stern.
There's that. I mean, he's basically saying what we are all reading now. There's a famous clip of Puffy that's resurfaced with a very young Justin Bieber saying, I've got custody of Justin for 48 hours, and what we're going to do, we cannot divulge. I mean, these guys tell you who they are. They may do it with like a wink and a nod, but they're telling you this is a bad, dangerous guy. And I knew he wasn't going to get bail because it goes beyond, is he a flight risk? Will he turn over his passport? This guy was going to intimidate, beat, or worse, any potential victim who is thinking of coming forward.
Yeah. That's what the assistant U.S. attorney was saying. You cannot trust him. He will tamper with all the witnesses. He will threaten them. He will intimidate them. And this is becoming more and more his reputation, that he threatens people to keep them quiet. The allegation is I'm just now coming to understand with Cassie. She's Cassie Ventura. She became his girlfriend for a number of years, and she is the one who filed the lawsuit last November, and within one day he settled it. And that opened the floodgates for all sorts of lawsuits accusing him of things. And it's actually kind of interesting because one of them is pretty salacious, and it was filed by, I think, Rodney Jones, who worked for Diddy. And the complaints were very salacious, alleging this crazy stuff. And the judge actually chastised the plaintiff, the male plaintiff, saying, and his lawyer, saying, you just keep putting all this salacious stuff in there to try to get attention from the media. And I remember thinking, well, that's a bad sign, for the plaintiffs here. Like, should I be skeptical of these allegations? Because the judge is like, you're just trying to get media attention. Now that I read the indictment, I think that judge owes this lawyer an apology. If they were salacious, because that's exactly what the witnesses who are there are saying happened. I mean, it's absolutely medieval, the stuff that they were doing in there, according to multiple witnesses, Maureen.
Yeah. No, it's Caligula level stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, now that you're saying that, even in thinking back we're talking about criminality that we know of, say, beginning in 91. I'm sure it predates even that. It makes me wonder how many people he has paid off over the years in law enforcement, on the bench. I have to say, this thing going to trial, I would not want to be in that jury pool. I would be terrified to be in that jury pool.
I'm sure there are witnesses right now are feeling that.
I think so. I think part of the reason he's in the solitary housing unit at MDC, the SHU, is so that he can't get to people on the outside to have people threatened or worse.
I didn't finish my point because I lost my train of thought, but Cassie is the one who is shown on the tape getting beaten. I will show it. I'm not big on trigger warnings, but this one actually does deserve it. She gets beaten badly in the hallway, and I'll show it in 1 second. But I just learned that this was allegedly her trying to escape from one of these so-called freak-offs that are alleged in great detail in the indictment, where they say that these happened many, many times, that he would hire sex workers from the outside. Reading here from the indictment, that he wielded the power, and he and his associates wielded his power and used it to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into Combs' orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. Then Combs would use force, threats of force, and coercion to cause the victims to engage in extended sex acts with male commercial sex workers, referred to as freak-offs. Freak-offs were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. Another law enforcement official said he would also sometimes be in the next room. He could get videotape of people having sex at these freak-offs or anywhere in his house under cameras at any point in the day, and they would be recorded from multiple angles, whether they knew it or not. Freak-offs occurred regularly, sometimes lasted multiple days, and often involved multiple commercial sex workers, and that Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to the victims, in part to keep them obedient and compliant. Sometimes unbeknownst to the victims, he kept videos filmed of victims engaging in sex acts with commercial sex workers. After freak-offs, he and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and the drug use. His associates would book the hotel rooms, stock them with the required supplies, including controlled substances, baby oil, lubricant, extra linens, lighting, cleaning the hotel rooms after the freak-offs to try to mitigate room damage. In one instance, the room damage was so bad he had to pay $47,000 to clean up the room. And in March of 2024, when they conducted that raid on his home, law enforcement seized various freak-off supplies, including narcotics and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. They said during and separate from these freak-offs, he would hit, kick, throw objects at, and drag victims at times by their hair. These assaults often resulted in injuries that took days or weeks to heal. He threatened victims' careers and livelihoods, including if they resisted participating in these freak-offs. And then he used the sensitive, embarrassing, and incriminating recordings to ensure their obedience and silence. Sean Combs denies all of this. But they're alleging that when we saw Cassie Ventura get pulled in this video we're about to watch, they were in the midst of a freak-off. There was a break. Sean Combs had fallen asleep, and she escaped and tried to get out of that hotel. Watch. There's no sound, but she came down the hall. Now he runs after her with a towel only on. She's at the elevator door. He grabs her, throws her to the floor, kicks her in the face, grabs her bag. She's still down, kicks her again, grabs her by the hair, and drags her out of there. She's starting to fight back now, trying to stop it, like a rag doll. And what is alleged, I'm trying to remember, Maureen, whether I heard this from one of the U.S. attorneys or from her book. She went back. She got out of one of these. I don't know if it was this incident or another. She did get out of the hotel, and she went back. Because that is what abused women do.
Yeah.
They go back, and she was both afraid of him and probably in some way addicted to him and the trappings of his lifestyle, but also without the wherewithal or internal strength to actually cut it off.
And a guy who could take your life if he wanted to, I believe. I remember reading through Cassie's civil suit, and there were parts of it that just I couldn't believe, such as like they were at a party one night in LA. He saw her talking to another music manager, and in the car on the way back, he started stomping her in the face in the back of the car. She runs out of the car when they get to his residence. A bodyguard tries to intervene, and Diddy says no and the guy stands down. She goes in the house and she starts vomiting from this violent beating. There's a second incident in which he makes her get breast implants. She comes out of surgery. He doesn't like the way they look.
That's right.
He says to the doctor, I want you to take these out immediately and put in new ones. And the doctor says, we can't do that. She just was opened up. That would be catastrophic. It's dangerous. We can't do it. Somebody said, who was in the room, that this doctor looked like he was going to piss his pants, saying no to Diddy. And it got done. This is the kind of stuff, this is a kind of like institutionalized, there's a reason the feds are treating this like a criminal organization. That's what it is. That's what bad boy entertainment is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a criminal organization. And everything he's done to women, I columned about this a couple of days ago. Where are his celebrity peers saying, oh my God, this is detestable. We do not stand for this. The way that women came forward after Harvey.
Yeah.
Where are they? Everybody's quiet. Why?
Where's Ashton Kutcher? Where's, honestly, Usher? Where's Justin Bieber? Justin Bieber, I have no knowledge. They're not alleging his name in any of this, but Justin Bieber was very young when he came into Diddy's circle. And that tape you referenced of the two of them about to spend 48 hours together or having just was disturbing. And there's no question he had a lot of exposure to this guy. And I think he should say something. But now if he's a victim, he's in a very difficult spot because he's been abused.
Yeah.
And this brings up a lot, especially for a man.
Yeah.
It's very hard to go out and say that this has happened to you. But if he was a victim, God forbid, I encourage him to do it because you need someone strong like that to break the dam. Right now, Cassie's out there. She's been twisting in the wind for a year. This other guy, Jones, he came forward. He's twisting. But if you actually had an Usher, a Bieber, or, someone like an Ashton Kutcher, who I don't think he was an abuse victim, but he was good friends with Diddy for a long time, come out and say what they know, it would show leadership and it would give the others who are on this list permission and the security of not being the only one who then has to worry about retribution.
I think Ashton Kutcher is problematic because if you recall, he and his wife defended Danny Masterson, who is a violent serial rapist and was convicted of rape. I think he's away for life. They wrote letters to the judge.
That's right.
Saying they would let Danny watch their daughter alone. I mean, vile. I don't trust that guy at all. With Usher and Bieber, hypothetically, we don't know anything, but were they victimized by Diddy at young ages? I feel for them, especially given the stigma against homosexuality still in the Black community, in the hip hop community. I feel it's really incumbent upon people in positions of power. Only two have come forward. One is Eminem, who has recently rapped on his new record that everyone knows Diddy killed Tupac and probably Biggie. And when are they going to arrest him? And 50 Cent, who has been making the rounds and saying, Diddy tried to bring me into his circle. I wanted nothing to do with that. I wanted nothing to do with those parties. He's working on a Netflix doc right now, exposing Diddy and everything he knows. So now we're really going to see if the hip hop community can move with the times and do right by all of these victims. We'll see.
Who appear to have been fed to him like lambs to the slaughter. The book by his, were they married? She's the mother of three of his children.
Longtime partner, mother of,
They were never married, longtime partner. Alleges all these music executives whose names everybody would know, their household names, were in on it, were aware of it, participated in it. And so this really does look like it feels a little Epstein-y. There was an assistant U.S. attorney saying, yeah, he's as bad as Epstein in the New York Post today. And if that's true, then everybody's going to wonder about what sort of protection he has in jail, because we would like to know who else participated in this and what's being done to make sure there is no Epstein-like end for this guy.
100%.
He's not in the same jail that Epstein was in. That's been closed for the time being. But I don't know, Maureen, if he's that connected to that many powerful people, you have to at least wonder.
That's the thing. They have to keep him alive. He's such a high value suspect. It's sort of the way there was this drumbeat after Epstein when they got Ghislaine Maxwell to make sure she was kept alive. She never gave up any names, but she's paying for it. Diddy, I'm surprised, part of me thought he should just take a plea and just it's over, it's done. But megalomaniacs like this, abusers, control freaks, they never do.
They do not plea.
They never do. And his attorney used such a poor turn of phrase the other day while blaming Cassie for all of this, while blaming the victims. He said, Mr. Combs is a fighter.
Oh, boy. That's Mark Agnifilo. He also represented Keith Raniere in the NXIVM sex cult case. And Keith Raniere is currently in jail for the rest of his life. So it didn't go very well. Mark Agnifilo came out and said he's got issues. He cheated on his wife, basically. So he's a cheater and was in a toxic relationship, but he's not a criminal. And that reminded me of what he said in the Raniere case, which was, it's a cult member. Oh, they were forced to do things. Oh, come on, this is New York. We're not forced to do anything. We're New Yorkers. We're not forced to. This guy, with all due respect, I don't see that working out as a defense. I do want to play the Bieber clip just because I've referenced it a couple times, and so did you. Here's the one we're referring to, back when Bieber was, I think, 15.
Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I have been given custody of him. He signed to Usher.
I'm signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full crazy.
I'm going crazy.
That is deeply disturbing in the light of what we've just learned.
It's so upsetting. It's, the last time you and I spoke about child stars and the damage and how they all sort of act out or go off the rails and, you just never know what was done to them. What was done to him? His parents threw him to the wolves, literally.
What mother would give her 15-year-old over to Sean Combs for a weekend? Who would do that? No matter how badly your son and you want him to become a star.
Did we learn nothing from Michael Jackson?
Yeah, right.
When that documentary, that HBO documentary came out, which I could only watch the first part of it because it was so dark and so upsetting, because it was just all of these mothers feeding their young sons, knowing what was going on most likely, and they didn't care. And the damage is lifelong. And this is a betrayal on so many levels. But watching that, I was having the same thought. What mother is giving their 15-year-old boy over to a grown man for 48 hours to go buck wild?
I have a son who is turning 15 in a week. 15 is young. They're young. These are not men yet. They are still boys figuring it all out. Even if you have a mature, really smart, awesome one like I do, never, in no world, would I hand him over to someone like that, who at a minimum, is a rap star in a very controversial industry full of debauchery. That's insane what she did. And I don't know about Justin Bieber. I want to make that clear, but I actually really feel like we should hear from him. If he has the strength and has been through whatever he needs to go through to be able to speak out about his own experience, it would be extremely important and powerful. There's more. Diddy's bodyguard is speaking out, and how. This guy's now all over Twitter, naming names. We're going to talk about that after I take a quick break. Don't go away. More with Maureen next. With the massive tax hikes proposed by Vice President Kamala Harris, an almost 40% top income tax rate, 7% increase to the corporate tax, a capital gains tax on unrealized gains and adding almost $2 trillion to a current $2 trillion deficit, you might be thinking it's time to make more of your savings tax sheltered and inflation sheltered. Hello? This is why I want to tell you about Birch Gold Group. Birch Gold will assist you in converting an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. And the best news is you don't pay 1 penny out of pocket. Just text MK to 989898 and get a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just information on fortifying your savings before the crazy reality hits. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of happy customers, consider giving Birch Gold Group a try. Text MK to the number 989898 for your free info kit today. You did not vote for this economic downturn and the high inflation, but you could be paying for it at the pump, the grocery store, and with growing stacks of unpaid bills. Financial stress can be crushing, and one solution could be donewithdebt.com. Done With Debt created new, aggressive strategies designed to get you out of debt permanently without bankruptcy or loans. Done With Debt can stand between you and bill collectors. They negotiate with your creditors to write off balances, cut interest, and stop penalties. And the best news is Done With Debt is accepting new clients right now. But you do need to hurry because some of their debt relief strategies are time sensitive and you don't want to miss out. Let Done With Debt hit the debt reset button for you and make your money yours again. Visit donewithdebt.com or call 1-888-322-1054 now. Chat with one of their debt relief strategists for free. That's donewithdebt.com, donewithdebt.com. I want to get to the news that just broke before we resume this Diddy discussion. It's happened. The website Black Insurrectionist is now reporting that the ABC News alleged whistleblower has filed a complaint with the Securities and Exchange Commission about ABC News.
So good.
Wow. He reports that the SEC has acknowledged receipt of 2 complaints lodged at Disney, the owner of ABC News. The complaint states that ABC News and their parent company, Disney, colluded with the Harris campaign to influence the debate of 9/10/24 and to influence the 2024 presidential election. The complaint shows documents, reading here from Black Insurrectionists' recitation of what's in the document. The complaint shows documents uploaded to the SEC complaint system that contain evidence of this collusion. Now that's interesting. I don't know what the documents would be, but of course the whistleblower is claiming he has tape recordings, could be transcripts, don't know. My next post will be the SEC complaint numbers, acknowledgement of uploaded document receipts showing the SEC has in fact evidence of this collusion. I think he means received evidence of this collusion. I will definitely post today. Wanted to do it now, but waiting on written clearance to post. This guy, Black Insurrectionist, says he's in touch with the whistleblower. I do have the receipts and have seen everything described in the post. For context, Abigail Disney was one of the main driving forces for Joe Biden to be booted off the ticket and be replaced by Kamala Harris. Abigail Disney said if Biden does not step down, the Democrats will lose. Of that, I am absolutely certain. For further context, Disney is a stock that Nancy Pelosi and many Democrats have in their portfolios and so on. So, reporting that this whistleblower is not going quietly into the night, Maureen.
This is so exciting. This is, I think, our October surprise, and I can't wait to see.
Or the October surprise is that this is a big punk, and none of it is real.
Don't break my heart. Don't break my heart. The other thing I can't wait to see is how aggressively the New York Times et al. Begins to cover this story.
Yeah.
This talk about election interference.
If one word of that purported affidavit is true, it's a door-shutting moment for ABC News. I mean, truly, you cannot survive with any legitimacy if that affidavit is true. If. And we'll see what the SEC does and what the U.S. Senate does and what Speaker Mike Johnson is going to say or not say about, I sound like Kamala Harris, say or not say.
Do you have goals and ambitions about this?
I do. I have
Maybe
hopes
dreams.
and dreams. Because the alleged whistleblower is saying when he sent his certified letter, that when he signed his affidavit the day before the debate, alleging we would see a smaller podium and we would see certain split screens and we would not see questions about certain subjects, which indeed did not appear at the debate, that he sent a certified copy of his letter to Speaker Mike Johnson's office. We continue to be in touch with them about whether they have said letter. I believe if they find it, they will be honest about it, though they are not confirming or denying it right now. So awaiting news from the House, awaiting possible hearing in the Senate, and awaiting response from the SEC. Not to mention Kamala Harris. Hello. How has she not been forced to answer these allegations? She's one of the ones accused. And ABC News, you need to tighten your denial. If you didn't do this, good. I would expect that you would not have done this. Give us a real denial that sounds like a grown-up wrote it who's innocent. Okay. Speaking of not innocent. So Sean Combs had a bodyguard who's a very colorful man. Mm-hmm. I mean, the way he speaks, I'm not even going to talk about the post he posted with an alleged phone recording of a sex act involving Diddy. Trust me, you don't want to hear it. You can't unhear it. But here is one in which he's talking about, okay, let's see. Oh, God. Really, Kelly McGuire? Is that the one we should play? All right. Let's listen to SOT 20.
You got to realize, man, he learned from Andre Harrell. He learned from Russell Simmons. He learned from Clyde Davis. You understand? When those people are telling you that they were heavy into the drugs, they was heavy into beating women and doing things at that age, at that crazy stage, that's going to make him think that he could get away with the same thing that they was getting away with back then. You understand? The things that he was saying, the touchy-feely between two men and all that stuff like that, man. All that, he learned that from them dudes.
Okay, so that's one from the bodyguard. He claims that he audiotaped a sex act between Diddy and a male, and that he held on to it because he wanted to get paid. He's very open about the fact that he wanted to get paid off. And he complains in this video that nobody would believe him, probably because he was asking to get paid. And he was saying, now you believe me, right? You believe me now?
It's interesting he mentions Russell Simmons, who's been accused of rape by many women, including some prominent ones. Jenny Lumet, daughter of the famous film director Sidney Lumet, I believe was one of them. And he skedaddled. He got out of the States. He's living in Bali now, and he'll never come back.
Oh, my gosh. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I did not realize that. So here's another video of Diddy with Usher and Kevin Hart. Take a look at SOT 22.
That's my brother right here from day one. We used to wake up and, pause, but like, check this out. Back in the days when he was like 10 and I was a little bit older, his older brother, we used to fight over the Frosted Flakes. You know what I'm saying? Before pause was invented. You know what I'm saying? But it's my brother for real. We used to actually wrestle off of the Frosted Flakes because he used to always get up early with me. Now he's one of the richest stars in the world. And
what the fuck did Puff just say? Nobody's going to acknowledge this for me. Puff just said we used to wrestle over the Frosted Flakes, and we're streaming live. That was stupid. Listen, that was fucking stupid. Listen.
I don't know what just went on there, but there's obviously quite a history between Usher and Diddy, and a direct line down to Bieber, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, Maureen. Those are just, we're talking about some of the men in his orbit.
Right.
The women in his orbit seem to have been treated as subhuman, according to the indictment. So to me, this is very reminiscent of Harvey Weinstein. Yes, also Epstein, but really Harvey Weinstein, where it seems to have been an open secret what he was doing, and celebrity after celebrity covered it up, built him up, fed others into the machine. And now, not a peep. Now, no one is saying anything, even though doing so would lead the way for other victims to feel safe and, more comfortable speaking out. There's just no moral courage in Hollywood.
No, none. And, make no mistake, Diddy's tentacles run so deep and wide in the hip-hop community. And it was the death of Biggie Smalls, which he has long been rumored to have something to do with, his alleged best friend, that elevated him into the hip-hop stratosphere. It took him from behind the decks in the studio into a hip-hop star of great magnitude. And I was thinking about, Eric Adams, mayor of New York, who gave Diddy a key to the city last fall. Okay?
Did he really last
He
fall?
gave him a key to the city last fall. Now, Eric Adams is failing in part because he is a nightclub habitué. He spends more time at Zero Bond than he does running the city of New York. You cannot tell me Eric Adams had no idea what was going on in Diddy's world.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to finally take that key back after the Cassie video came out.
Oh. The Bodyguard also alleges that there were drugs in everyone's drink, that Diddy drugged everyone there and just kept it flowing, whether it was Molly. I don't know what he was putting in people's drinks, but it does seem like it would have been really hard not to notice that everyone around you is high on something, like really high on something, whether you're a member of, the administration in New York City, law enforcement, or this Hollywood cabal. Because we played this the other day, but you saw him with the invite list to his 50th birthday party, right? Oprah, hello?
Yes.
Miss Champion for the downtrodden. Where are you? Out there trying to pave the way for another, pair of potential groomers, Tim Walz, to get into high office and do to others what he did to kids in Minnesota. What did you guys say? You have it? Is that what you're saying? My team's in my ear. Yeah, here it is.
Are you
Watch.
ready? Drum roll. Drake. Oprah. J-Lo. A-Rod. Will Smith. Alicia Keys. Black King God. Justin Bieber.
I appreciate him doing that because that's the list of the people we need to hear from.
100%. And when you said Oprah, my mind went to Gail, and my mind went to Gail's interview with R. Kelly, which got her that huge contract at CBS.
Yes, that's right. She sat there because she got all these points because she sat there.
And said Robert when he got
upset.
Exercised.
Yeah, exactly. He was so well connected, it went well beyond Oprah and those names you just heard. Here is, just watch, SOT 28.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you. And I just want to say how much I appreciate Puff Daddy for doing the kinds of work that he's doing, because he doesn't have to do this. But this is part of what is important about giving back.
We applaud you, and I want to apologize for not sweating, but I do this so much. I'm so cool. I just want y'all to see everybody I'm interviewing is sweating. I'm not even touching my brow. I'm so cool, and I want to apologize. I ain't trying to make you look bad or nothing like that, but I'm just so cool. We
T-shirt. I tell you, if he was wearing one of those fancy designer clothes he's designing, he'd be sweating just like me.
I mean, at some point, you've got to ask yourself, like, Barack Obama is a very smart man. He must be like, I'm standing next to an idiot. What am I doing here? Why am I doing this? It wasn't just Obama. Kamala Harris, she thanked Diddy for hosting a town hall for Biden-Harris back in 2020, saying, thank you, Diddy, for hosting this town hall last night. There's a lot at stake for our communities right now. It's critical we bring to the forefront how coronavirus is perpetuating racial inequality and health disparities. Let's hear from her. Great. Let's have another tweet from these people. We're not going to get it. All right, let me, in the time we have left, just get to this. Okay, I've got to get to this because you mentioned New York City. And Steven Crowder has managed to get on tape this epidemiologist who is in charge of the COVID response in New York City. You see this? And this guy's name is Dr. Jay Varma. And he's been releasing, Stephen has part of his Mug Club broadcast, bits and pieces of this guy, who they definitely pulled like a James O'Keefe on this guy. And it's absolutely infuriating, talking about how he was out everywhere. He's at underground sex and drug parties during the lockdowns when you weren't allowed to be gathering in big spaces. But he really needed to blow off steam, Maureen, because it was a stressful job. And now the one they released today is him talking about, it's not a reveal, we know, but to hear an administrative official say it is something else. Who's to blame for the school lockdowns in New York? SOT 30.
I wanted kids to school. The mayor wanted kids to school. But the teachers union didn't. The teachers union wanted all the teachers to be able to stay home at Zoom so they'd be safe, even though it means that kids get hurt. So the mayor was screwed.
How are the kids getting hurt?
Because kids you learn more when you're in school. If you're like an 8-year-old or 9-year-old, like, you can't sit in front of a Zoom screen all day.
So was that actually harmful for children?
It was, but we didn't have a choice because the mayor really wanted them in school, but the unions didn't, the labor unions, and so you had to like find this weird. This is where I get upset at him. Like he didn't tell unions to off. So the left-wing people are all total like union people, right? They're like, yay, pro-union, pro-workers, but he has to fight with them, which just doesn't work because he needs them for like votes.
These effing unions and the elected representatives who bent the knee to them knowing that they were going to hurt children, many of whom, I mean, including my own, were stuck at home behind the screens, not getting real learning. They cut down the basketball hoops. They banned the kids from going to the parks. Screw that guy and the mayor and everybody, and especially the unions who cared more about sitting at home watching their stories on TV than they did about doing their jobs.
Saying the quiet part out loud, the thing we all knew, aside from the educational deficits, the social deficits, there was a study that just came out that said children are having a harder time forming friendships now more than ever, that there is a loneliness epidemic among children, and it belongs at the feet of people like that. Thirdly, I'd just like to say, why aren't I getting invited to all these sex parties? Everybody's having a sex party. Like, what's happening? Like, that guy that he's blowing off steam during COVID, like, what's more sanitary than, like, exchanging bodily fluids with strangers at the height of a pandemic?
Like, literally, have you ever been invited to a sex party?
Not to my knowledge.
No, me neither. Me neither. I feel like I feel like somebody who might get invited.
I'm fun.
What's wrong with us?
I don't know.
No, not a one. Although it's actually funny. Here in my town, there was supposedly some like spin instructor who half of the women in the town were having affairs with, and some sort of venereal disease, STD, was going around to the point where like all the GYNs were asking all the patients like, well, we need to test for this. And people were like, why are you testing for this? I've been married for 20 years. They're like, no, we better test. You never know. It's like running rampant. Wow. Apparently stuff goes on, Maureen, and we are living sheltered lives. Do we need to get out more?
I blame my Catholic school education. I think that's got to be what it is. I must admit a vibe. You know, it's like I've said this before in my entire life, and I used to go out a lot in my 20s. I've never been offered a hard drug.
No.
And it's because they can feel it. They can sense it off me. I don't hold it. I don't use it. I don't want it. Like, there's a radar, I think.
I totally agree with you. I have never, I wouldn't take it, and I'm always pretty open about. I've told every man I've ever dated right at the beginning, I don't do drugs and I don't date people who do.
Interesting.
So they know right off the top. But yeah, you'd think at some point somebody would try to get you to do it. But maybe I didn't go to Catholic school, but I am Catholic. I'm glad we're emanating, I'm not going to do drugs or join your sex party vibe.
Yeah. No, you were definitely a more emotionally intact person than I was in my 20s. I loved nothing more than a damaged man with maybe a substance abuse problem. I loved a fixer-upper. Now, no more. But yeah, I mean, I would wonder, I would see friends of mine go off and I would be like, why aren't I being asked to the bathroom?
Right. I look good.
Yeah. But no, that's why.
But
they could tell.
Know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there is something to this. We're ending the show, but there's definitely something to this that the predators, as Sean Combs is alleged to be, they have a great radar for women who have been hurt a lot, who have damage through no fault of their own in their upbringing. And they know exactly how to manipulate and take advantage of that damage. It's just a terrible cycle for these women, and it can happen to men too.
Yeah, sure.
And then they create more damage, and then more comes. It's just a very bad loop. So it is kind of joyful to see this one being held to account. He denies everything, like literally every allegation that we've raised about him on the Today Show. He denies, and he'll have his day in court. Maureen, it's wonderful to see you. Thank you for being here.
Megyn. Thank you so much.
That's so much better. So glad we had the Oprah conversation. We're back Monday with Vivek Ramaswamy. Don't go anywhere before you've seen that one. Well, go have a weekend and then come back.